She left him when he was broke, then saw him on TV, very rich later. You ever wake up one morning and realize the whole world is about to change, but you don't know how or when? That was the morning she left him. He was 25, unemployed, and living on borrowed hope. College dropout, apartment overdue, mom's couch, his only address. He'd been building a business. A dream fizzled by bad advice, bad loans, bad timing. She watched him struggle. Steadfast at first, supportive, till her own faith ran dry. She packed her bags one evening, said she couldn't watch him drown anymore. Didn't hate him, said she loved him. But love doesn't pay rent. Love doesn't feed dreams that crumble every month. He begged. She didn't look back. That departure broke him not just heart, but self. He lost his confidence, his direction. He took low-wage jobs, temp work, garage mechanic shops. He paid bills. He survived. Then one ordinary morning changed everything. He poured coffee in his overworked car, radio humming, and turned on the local news. And there he was. An unfamiliar face on TV, profile shot with flashing lights behind. Then his full name across the screen. Local entrepreneur awarded $100K grant. He blinked in disbelief. He, the guy who couldn't pay his phone bill, now getting national spotlight? The anchor said he'd turned his failing idea into a booming business with 0 employees, just hustle, late nights, rejections, grit. They interviewed his clients, millennials, families, community groups. They spoke of how his service unpaid at first mattered, how his persistence paid off. She saw it at her new apartment later that day. She switched on the TV, local news, her ex's name in bold headlines. She left him when he was broke. Now she sees him living her memories on screen. She sank into the couch. No pride, no joy, just shock, regret, curiosity, maybe a bittersweet twist she didn't expect. If you're just joining us, drop where you're watching from in the comments now, city, country, region, so we can feel the global pulse of this journey. And if you haven't yet, hit subscribe. He woke up to silence. The apartment next door, empty. The couch he once shared, now cold. The dream he'd chased had just shown up on TV while she was out of sight. He sat there for hours. Only sound the hum of the fridge, the distant city street, the weight of second chances slipping back in. He had followed the grants, the microloan, the seed funding from a local nonprofit. He hadn't slept for 6 months, living in borrowed time and borrowed ambition. He built his first client list on kindness. Free work, a whiteboard, and sheer grind. And then, boom! A news crew in his small studio, shooting B-roll, asking reviews, capturing him in motion. He answered questions from a reporter who polished his words for airtime. And now he was the underdog turned winner. He watched the clip again, his name, his face, his cause, and that moment the anchor said,
"What was once a man drowning in debt is now lifting his community." He paused. That word community echoed. He had lost faith in people, thought they laughed behind his back, didn't believe in him, taught him to water down his dreams. But here they were proud. Editors on social media praising him, local business owners quoting him, his phone ringing off the hook with potential projects, invitations, investment talks, and then a text from an unknown number. "Congratulations, John." He blinked. It was her. She'd found him. Then a message from her. "Can we talk?" She types, "I have questions." His heart races. Because forgiveness isn't easy. Pride gets in the way. Karma doesn't text reminders. But respect. Real respect is learned when you least expect it. But he doesn't reply yet. She stared at the blinking cursor on her phone. "Can we talk?" Message sent. No reply. Not yet. She locked the screen, tossed it beside her coffee cup, and pulled her knees up to her chest. The cafe she sat in was loud, filled with laughter, espresso machines, and people pretending to be fine. But she wasn't pretending. She was hollow. It wasn't just the fact that he had made it. It wasn't the TV segment or the social media posts. It was his eyes, still kind, still full of that fire she thought would burn him. And somehow, they were clearer now. Like he had seen everything, lost everything, and rebuilt anyway. She remembered when he used to sketch plans on napkins, when he'd promise her that one day would come. She got tired of hearing one day. Rent was due, bills piled up. He had ideas, but no income. She worked double shifts, came home to dark rooms and open laptops. She didn't cheat. She didn't curse. She just broke and quietly walked away. He didn't chase her. Maybe he couldn't. Maybe he didn't know how. And now, he was the man on screen, applauded for his resilience, honored for his impact. She was the woman watching, wondering who he became. Without her. Meanwhile, he saw the message. Didn't reply. Didn't delete it. Just stared. Part of him wanted to scream. Part of him wanted to show her everything. Part of him wanted to protect what he had left. Fame is strange. It doesn't heal wounds. It just shines a light on them. He thought of replying, but his phone rang. A journalist. Another interview. Another invitation. He showed up, smiling, poised, but inside there was chaos. Not because of success, not because of money, but because of her message. You feel the pressure build, not from money, but from memory. The kind that sneaks in when lights go off. The kind that questions if healing is even real. She calls a friend, tries to sound casual, mentions his name like it's nothing. The friend gasps, "You mean John? That guy's changing lives now." She forces a smile, nods, but inside, there's an ache. Because it's not jealousy, it's shame. And now, she's made a decision. She books a flight.
She doesn't know what she'll say. She doesn't know if he'll slam the door. But she knows she needs closure, even if it breaks her. He gets the notification. Flight booked. He sees her name in the hotel reservation system. Coincidence? No, she's coming. To his city, to his world, to the life she once left behind. And just like that, two paths once severed, now inch toward collision. But will it be forgiveness or a final goodbye? She stepped off the plane, heart pounding, palms sweaty. It had been 4 years. 4 years since she'd last seen his face in person. 4 years since she walked out of that apartment. Suitcase in hand, eyes full of tears but soul full of doubt. She remembered the silence after the door shut. She remembered the weight of choosing herself. But now she wasn't sure she even knew herself anymore. She looked around the airport, heart secretly hoping he'd be there. He wasn't. Of course he wasn't. He had interviews, cameras, board meetings. He had moved on, hadn't he? She checked into the hotel. Ocean view, premium suite. She couldn't afford it. But this wasn't about comfort. It was about courage. Across town, he stood in front of a massive room, packed with eager young dreamers hanging on to every word he said. He was telling them the story about the days of darkness, about how it all fell apart, how he slept on floors, how nobody believed in the dream, how one day someone left, and how he chose not to hate them. He didn't say her name. He never would, but he said this. Sometimes people leave, not because they're bad, but because they're broken. And sometimes what feels like betrayal is really just fear in disguise. The room went silent. You could feel the heaviness, the power, the pain. She watched that speech, alone, on her phone, in that hotel room. Tears rolled down her cheeks. She didn't expect grace. She expected blame. But what she got instead was understanding. Still, she needed more. A real conversation. A face-to-face. She messaged again. No reply, just silence. She tried his assistant. Got a polite Mr. John is currently unavailable. She left a message anyway. I'm not here to reopen wounds. I just want to say sorry, in person. One last time, he heard it. Listened 3 times, then 4. Each word cracked open something he thought he'd bury. That night he drove. No entourage. No cameras, just him, just silence. And when he walked into that hotel lobby, she looked up from her seat. And there he was, older, stronger, richer, but still him. He didn't smile, didn't frown, he just said, "Hi!" She stood, her voice trembled. "I'm not here to get back with you. I just want to look you in the eye and say I'm sorry. You didn't deserve the way I left. I didn't know how to handle watching you dream while we were drowning." He looked at her, eyes soft but unreadable. "I don't hate you," he said. "I never did." Then silence. Long, heavy, real. She nodded, fought back more tears. "I just needed to see you one last time, to know you're okay." He said, "I'm more than okay," but then added, "Not because I made money, but because I made peace." And just like that, it felt like closure, but also like something else. They sat, talked, laughed a little, cried more, and when she stood to leave, he said something that stopped her. "I'm building something new, something different. I want people on the team who understand pain and growth. You walked away once, but I'm asking, would you walk beside me now? Not as lovers, not as a second chance, but as someone who finally sees, because now she must decide. Go back to her life of what-ifs, or walk forward in truth, no strings, just purpose." She didn't speak for what felt like a full minute. Her mouth moved, then stopped. She tried to form words, but none of them sounded right. What do you say when someone you left behind invites you into their future? Not for romance, not for revenge, but for redemption. She sat back down, eyes locked with his. "Why me?" she finally whispered. "There are 1,000 people who'd kill to be near you right now. Investors, dreamers, loyal friends, people who never walked out." He leaned back, looked down, then answered slowly. "Because none of them know what it feels like to be cracked wide open. None of them know how it feels to watch someone they love suffer and still not know what to do. You left, but it wasn't selfishness. It was fear. And fear is human. I've forgiven you. Now I want to build something human, with people who felt the fire." She swallowed hard. "I don't want pity," she said. "This isn't pity," he replied. "It's purpose." And just like that, she said yes, not with her lips, but with the silence that followed. The kind of silence that screams acceptance. The next day, she walked into a boardroom for the first time in years. Not as a girlfriend, not as a past mistake, but as a creative director of a foundation he had built called Ashes to Empire. It wasn't just a company, it was a movement, built for people who had been burned by life and chose to rise anyway. She wasn't perfect, still had doubts, still had shame in her chest like a second heartbeat. But she also had clarity, because this time she was walking in with her whole self. No lies, no masks, no pretending. Months passed, then years. They never became lovers again, but something deeper formed. A bond, a quiet respect. They traveled the world together, speaking to women who had left too soon, men who had failed too many times, teenagers who had no one but a dream. They spoke about loss, regret, and growth. They taught people how to rebuild, not just careers or finances, but identity. And the funny thing is, people thought they were married. People assumed their story had circled back into romance, but it hadn't. Because not every powerful story ends in love. Some end in legacy. She wrote a book one day, titled it The Girl Who Left and Came Back Different. It sold millions, not because it was perfect, but because it was honest. He wrote the foreword, and in it he wrote, "Some people leave you when you're broke, and it hurts. But sometimes, that pain becomes the fuel that drives you. If you're lucky, they come back not to apologize, but to become a partner in your purpose. Forgive, grow, build." That's the legacy. One day, they were invited on a talk show, both of them. Live audience. Host leaned in and asked, "Do you two regret anything?" He smiled, looked at her. She smiled back, and together they said, "No regrets." Only lessons, only purpose. The audience clapped, cried, and rose to their feet. But the story doesn't end there. Years later, after he passed away in his sleep at 53, she stood on the stage he once stood on, in front of a stadium of 40,000 people, and she said, "He gave me more than a second chance. He gave me a new definition of love. Love isn't always romance. Sometimes it's respect and redemption." Moral of the story: never judge someone by their darkest hour. Never assume people can't change. And never walk away thinking you'll never walk back. Because life is long, and karma is patient, but so is grace. And if you're lucky, your biggest mistake might lead you to your greatest mission. What would you do if your past came knocking? Subscribe and drop your location and your thoughts in the comments. Remember, sometimes the one who walked away becomes the one who walks beside.